Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince White. The chapter begins. In the next moment, a breeze carried fallen debris across the empty city streets. The team sat in still silence before a shattered building. Suho, Essel, Gray, and Brokey, each sensing the shift in the air. Baru began to speak again, now with clarity and weight. I'll tell you about what I saw in their memories. The shadows danced along the pavement as he continued. But before I tell you about them, there are some things you must know. A vision unfolded, of a strange crystal and a terrifying monster shrouded in the void. The stardust is already being distributed on Earth, and Mistborns are monsters from the outer universe. Essel's eyes widened. You're saying the Hell Realm wasn't the only place stardust was being distributed? Suho speaks in shock. Mistborns are monsters from the outer universe. Baru nodded. Whether it's fate or coincidence, the demons I ate are linked to Brokey and the Hyena Guild of the Gunmac Mountain Field. Images began to swirl in the mist. Visions of grotesque demons and sinister humans. Those demons receive a supply of humans from the Hyena Guild. They are to be corrupted into Mistborns and used as materials for stardust. Baru's wings shimmered, sharp and cold. There are other places also manufacturing stardust. They call them stardust factories. He continued, voice low and dark. To sum up, what I've learned is that the Hyena Guild would kidnap humans. The Grim Reaper Guild would pass the kidnap to the factories, and the factories use them to create stardust. I'm certain Iterum is behind these three places. Suho's brows furrowed. All of this is related to the invasion of Iterum. Baru's voice grew even quieter. Also, a human created this stardust manufacturing system. Suho's eyes widened. A human? Yes, I found out a human is helping Iterum's apostle, and they're hidden somewhere on Earth. A dark shape rose from the shadows, Baru's voice continuing. That person is the vice CEO of the Grim Reaper Guild, Lee Minsung. If we look into him, we should be able to get to Iterum's apostle. The atmosphere shifted once more. In front of a grand, modern building, a crowd had gathered, murmurs filling the air as reporters adjusted their lenses and cameramen aligned their tripods. The anticipation was thick as the doors slowly parted. Bright flashes exploded across the scene. He's coming out, someone shouted. And then, stepping confidently into the blinding light, Lee Minsung emerged. The crowd gasped, cameras clicked furiously, and all attention fell squarely on the man at the center of a storm. It's Lee Minsung, came the cry, reporters scrambling forward with microphones extended. Mr. Lee, I would like to interview you, one called out, forcing his way through the huddle. How did the Hunter Association's investigation go? Another asked, pushing a recorder forward. In his practiced calm, Lee Minsung replied with a smooth edge, the investigations have found me to be innocent. It's to be expected, though. But the questions intensified, less about his innocence, more about what he had overlooked, or perhaps concealed. Did you really not know about the Hyena Guild kidnapping people? A bold reporter demanded. Even though the Grim Reaper Guild sponsors them? The questions struck harder now. Additionally, there have been a lot of hunters dying in the Soul Field, which is under your guild's management. What do you have to say about that? Lee Minsung lowered his gaze for a moment. Then he stepped into the spotlight, both literally and figuratively, and said, We, the Grim Reaper Guild, have only done our best. For the world that was plunged into chaos after the great cataclysm that happened 2 years ago. He let his words hang in the air for effect. He continued, his voice edged with calculated sorrow. The reason why we sponsored the Hyena Guild was because we wanted to help their guild, which mainly consisted of D-rank hunters, to get stronger and be able to help the world. His justification flowed like a well-rehearsed script. Even opening up the Soul Field to hunters outside of our guild was also because we thought it would be a place where new hunters could get good experience. His gaze swept across the crowd, unwavering. We didn't know the actions we made with good intentions would produce such results. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some believed him, some didn't, but all of them listened. Lee Minsung lifts a trembling hand to his face, eyes dimmed with feigned remorse. The light of the cameras glint off his pale suit as he bows his head in a perfect display of humility. A pained voice escapes him, loaded with contrition. If only he'd been more careful, he says, if only he had managed things more responsibly, then no one would have died. The crowd holds its breath. Then, like a practiced actor delivering the final line of a tragic performance, Minsung offers a soft apology. He's sorry for causing trouble. With that, he turns and walks away, flanked by his men, bathed in the glow of camera flashes and the golden sunset. The press parts like the sea, reverence and confusion in equal measure trailing in his wake. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. A few reporters begin to second-guess their outrage. Was the Grim Reaper Guild simply a pawn? A victim of larger forces? Even the Hunter Association had cleared them, hadn't they? The Grim Reaper Guild has done good work until now, someone whispers. Then aren't they basically heroes? At the center of it all, Minsung's lips curl into a subtle smile, his eyes glinting with cruel satisfaction. His act had been flawless. In a quiet, fading light, Minsung wipes the mask of sympathy from his face. His inner monologue brims with smugness. Pulling off this kind of act? It was child's play for the former top star of Asia. His acting skills hadn't dulled in the slightest. As he speaks to a seated investigator, a sliver of surprise slips through. He hadn't expected to be released so easily. No further interrogation. No resistance. It was almost disappointing. Still, he keeps his calm. What mattered was that the Hunter Association had no idea, no clue that he, Lee Minsung, was the mastermind behind the very stardust poisoning the world. The true origin remained hidden, just as he had planned. From the shadows, Suho quietly watched the man in white stride past, his eyes narrowing in thought. The afternoon light cast long silhouettes across the pavement as the press slowly dispersed, their attention locked on Lee Minsung. Yet for Suho, something wasn't right. Something deep in his instincts twisted with unease. So that person is Lee Minsung, he muttered, suspicion thick in his tone. Baru, what do you think? Do you feel the energy of Itarim coming from him? The familiar flicker of blue light pulsed as Baru emerged on his shoulder, eyes glowing faintly. Not at all, came the answer, steady and cold. Suho's gaze sharpened. If it wasn't Itarim's influence, then what was it? Does this mean he's not being controlled by Itarim? That's right, Baru confirmed, his tone unwavering. Suho's hand curled slightly, tension building. Well, we can make sure of that from now on. But before he could finish, Baru's voice rang out sharply. You mustn't do that, young monarch. Baru's wings flared as if to block him, his voice trembling with resolve. I know you've already defeated a few strong enemies, but this time I will risk my life to stop you. Visions of past battles briefly flashed across his tiny frame. Formidable foes struck down, victories earned through sweat and blood. Yet this moment, this decision, bore a different weight. The mana that I feel from Lee Minsung. Suddenly, Lee Minsung's expression changed. A cold gleam flared in his eyes, red and burning with primal tension. His teeth clenched. He turned quickly, shaking the thought away. What's the matter? One of his companions asked, concerned. No, it's nothing, Lee Minsung said in a calm voice. But Baru's quiet voice echoed ominously in his thoughts. You're not at the level where you can defeat him. In the glow of a crimson sunset, Lee Minsung sat alone in his car, legs crossed, the weight of his fabricated innocence already washing away. The world saw a victim, a hero, but beneath that polished smile waited something far more dangerous. A warm golden glow spilled from the ornate chandelier above, casting decadent swirls of light across the luxurious suite. Velvet shadows danced on polished marble, brushing against silver trays heaped with vibrant fruits and a chilled bottle of champagne nestled in a bucket of ice. The air was thick with indulgence, the scent of citrus and aged alcohol mingling lazily in the silence before indulgence. Lounging like a king in his den, Lee Minsung reclined on the plush leather couch, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. It's so easy, he murmured, the words laced with arrogance. In his mind, the masquerade had played out flawlessly. With nothing more than a staged apology and carefully manipulated facts, he emerged from the chaos of the Hyena Guild incident not as a villain, but a public hero. Screens displayed broadcast snippets and headlines, all echoing the same narrative. Grim Reaper Guild Vice CEO Lee Minsung, declared innocent by the association. The records of their profits had been made public. The Soul Station field was opened for new hunters. It was a show, one masterfully directed by him. and the audience was applauding. Then came the click of heels, slow and deliberate, as a woman in a figure-hugging dress stepped into the dim suite. Her voice dripped with sarcasm and mock politeness. "Oh my, who do we have here? Isn't that the hero of the hunter industry?" Minsung didn't move. "Oh, madam." His tone was dismissive, as if acknowledging someone far beneath him. She offered a sly smile, hiding the irritation that simmered beneath her composed facade. "You should have told me if you were coming." He waved his hand, gesturing lazily to the others. "All of you get out." The party dissolved around them. With a hint of a grin, he looked at her, amused. "Am I supposed to report to you about everything I do?" Her reply was soft but sharp. "No, you know that's not what I mean." But as she turned her head slightly away, her thoughts betrayed her calm expression. What a nasty personality. In the hush that followed, narration filled the void. He was born with a silver spoon, a Korean star in his teenage years. It was no wonder Lee Min-sung carried himself with such unshakable pride. But even that shining pride had been shattered once, trampled beneath the weight of the great cataclysm. And now, as he poured himself another glass of liquor, that old pride simmered beneath the surface again, reforged, bitter, and more dangerous than ever. But it wasn't always his story that caught attention. During the chaos of awakening, it wasn't Minsung, but his driver who had become one of the rare S-rank hunters in Korea. The media latched onto it. For once, Minsung wasn't the center. The hierarchy that always kept him above others had tilted, and the attention drifted to the man who once stood behind him. That driver now worked with the Grim Reaper Guild, and that fact still stung. Back in the dim-lit room, the woman narrowed her eyes. "Shall we talk business now?" He raised an eyebrow. What business?" She didn't wait for him to pretend further. "No need to feign ignorance. I'm talking about the stardust." The air grew colder. "I would like to buy some in bulk this time. Would that be possible?" Her voice remained calm, but deliberate. He took a slow sip, then answered without looking at her. "Did you not hear the rumors? The distribution method and one of the factories have been destroyed. There's no way there's enough supply for that." She didn't flinch. "I'm sure the great Lee Min-sung would have his ways though, wouldn't he?" He stared at her in silence. "Try talking to my business partner," he finally offered. "As expected of the vice CEO," she muttered darkly. As she turned away, his lips curled downward in frustration. "Do I need to find that guy? He stopped taking my orders recently. That kid." And far away, in a room guarded by shadows, that very kid stood in the light. His silhouette framed against the skyline, calm, but not alone. Creatures of nightmare stirred beside him, their red eyes glowing in the gloom. Elsewhere, the hunt had begun. The battlefield thundered with chaos. Goblins lunged, snarling in waves, only to be ripped apart mid-charge. Claws and steel collided in a blur of movement as the beast struck first, its obsidian form streaking past enemies like a phantom, leaving behind torn bodies and shrieks fading into silence. Essel emerged next. In his hand, the dark crescent of his blade arced with deadly grace. With one precise motion, he cleaved through a dozen goblins, their glowing eyes snuffed out mid-scream. His footwork danced across the fractured ground, his figure a streak of motion too fast for the untrained eye to follow. Every swing of his weapon carved through the enemy ranks with devastating force. Blood and dust sprayed into the air as Suho landed in a crouch, his breath sharp and controlled. Yet even as his muscles tensed for the next assault, there was a moment of quiet, a breath of exhaustion behind his clenched teeth. But this was far from over. Steeling himself, he stood tall. "Okay," he muttered, eyes narrowing. "I'm summoning the next round of goblins." Beside him, the familiar glow of his trusted shadow companion materialized. "Young monarch," it thought, sensing the restlessness simmering beneath Suho's calm surface. He must be feeling impatient because of what we talked about just now. The memory lingered, fragments of the truth they had uncovered about the stardust distribution and its mastermind. In the darkness of their hideout, the strategic discussion had begun. The plan was clear. Their true goal was to uncover intel about the Iterim Apostle, one connected directly to Lee Min-sung and the heart of the stardust trade. Suho sat surrounded by shadows and silence, his allies gathered in the dim glow. On the monitor before him, a familiar silhouette burned like a brand, Lee Min-sung. the one they would inevitably have to face. We should assume that a battle will take place when we approach Li Minsung, the shadow warned. Suho's voice was calm, but intent. How do we get information on the Iterum Apostle out of him then? If he doesn't tell us, the shadow's tone darkened. Then I'll just get that information myself. Its eyes gleamed like twin voids. The Shadow Monarch has allowed me to eat humans, as long as they're identified as evil. However, there was a catch. This plan would only succeed if they could defeat Li Minsung. As the Shadows recalled their time at the Hunter Association, one thing had become increasingly clear. Though they'd seen hunters of varying ranks, Baru's unique ability to gauge strength painted a sobering picture. Turning to Suho with a solemn stare, the Shadow spoke bluntly. "Young Monarch, you're currently C rank." The words sank in like ice water. Baru continued with unsettling precision. "Gray is D rank. Essel is C rank. Even when you and Gray combine your efforts, you barely rise above B rank." Suho narrowed his eyes as Baru projected the image of their greatest threat, Li Minsung, an A-rank powerhouse whose mere aura dwarfed theirs. The reality was harsh. 10 D ranks were typically required to bring down a single C rank. The gap between them and the Grim Reaper Guild was not a small chasm. It was a canyon. "We're still way too weak," Baru admitted. "To take on someone like Li Minsung, we need more." From the side, Essel asked with faint curiosity, "Baru, what's your rank?" Baru's reply was swift and proud. "I'm a general." But the teasing came instantly. "You sure you're not just a foot soldier?" Baru snapped, eyes blazing. "Keek, I'll rip you apart." The tension melted into brief laughter, but the challenge looming ahead remained very real. Moments later, a system alert rang in Suho's mind. A familiar notification box unfolded before him. Quest, Daily Quest, Shadow Dungeon Cleanup. Kill 100 goblins, 100 out of 100. Kill 10 goblin commanders, 10 out of 10. Kill 1 goblin centurion, 1 out of 1. Another alert followed. Quest rewards were ready. A new window appeared with a list, status recovery, plus 3 stat points. 1 random box. He stared down at the aftermath of their recent battle. Goblin corpses littered the ground beneath their feet. Essel and Gray waited nearby. Something felt off. "This time," Suho muttered, "the value isn't going up, even if I kill more." He frowned. Was the hidden reward a one-time thing? Another prompt flickered into view. Random box, open. Light exploded outward as a dazzling item materialized in his palm. Alert. You've obtained the item, Ash Ring. Rank for usage, D. Type, accessory. Effect, sense +5. Suho slipped the ring onto his finger. Another alert confirmed the change. You've equipped the item, Ash Ring. Sense, 29, +5. His eyes widened slightly. A ring that boosts the sense stat by 5? It wasn't just a reward, it was a message. They were still outmatched for now, but piece by piece, the system was preparing him for war. Suho's eyes narrowed as he stared off into the distance, his mind heavy with uncertainty despite the recent victory. The reward from the completed quest glimmered faintly in his hand, but deep down, he knew it wasn't enough. That didn't really change his situation. A single thought loomed in his head, dark and cold. Eventually, hunting goblins wouldn't be enough. No more easy EXP. No more simple stat gains. He'd already reached the limits of what the Shadow Dungeon could give him. It was only a matter of time before growth demanded bloodier, riskier paths. And even now, defeating demons only brought marginal gains. The Vulcan's Horn item had only grown stronger by 3%. Not enough. Nowhere near enough. Still, as he clenched the clawed gauntlet over his arm, it pulsed with destructive power, 33% increased damage. It looked powerful, but it wasn't closing the gap fast enough. "I want to grow stronger," he muttered, standing in the shadow of his own desire. There simply weren't many clear paths left. If he truly wanted to level up, if he really wished to catch up to those standing far above, he would have to take on real dungeons, kill real monsters, and risk his life doing so. A flash of his hunter license passed before his eyes as he reviewed his status. E rank. Nothing had changed there either. His name meant nothing in the greater world. He sat quietly in his apartment, the soft hum of the television and the occasional beep of a system alert the only sounds accompanying him. He looked tired, not physically, but tired of being boxed in. All he'd received today were calls for excavation and retrieval parties, low-risk, low-reward jobs that saw him more as a mule than a hunter. No one's going to put an E rank in a strike team, he said flatly, the reality weighing on him. But even the idea of sneaking into a gate unsanctioned, that too was off the table. The Hunter Association's rules forbade it. If he was caught, it could end everything. From the shadows, a familiar voice floated up. How about getting evaluated again? The suggestion lingered in the air for a second, but Suho's immediate answer was clear. That'd announce a reawakening. It'd go up on the association's homepage. That wasn't something he could afford. Not now. Not with the Iterum apostle lurking in the world. Not with enemies still connecting him to the legacy of his father. If his existence became public, if they discovered the Shadow Monarch's son was alive, it wouldn't just endanger him. He would become the target. A weakness to be exploited. He clenched his hands tighter. I can't even defeat Minsung. If I also have to fight the Iterum apostle, the doubt gnawed at him. Fear mixed with helplessness. But then, a calm voice cut through the haze. It was Baru, steady and firm. I don't think you need to be that worried about the Iterum apostle. A quiet hum settled in the space between them as Baru hovered, his obsidian form barely illuminated by the fading glow of the room's light. His voice echoed not in sound, but in weight, resonating in the air with the seriousness of a looming truth. The system has limitations. A person cannot infinitely level up through the system alone, Baru explained, his tiny form clenching its clawed fist as it hovered near Suho's shoulder. There exists a powerful method, the technique to cross the boundary between worlds, dimensional transfer, Suho whispered, his eyes narrowed, reflecting the term with confusion and curiosity. Baru continued, his tone more somber now. For outer universe beings to use dimensional transfer, they must possess the dimension crack, Baru elaborated. A shimmering visual flared into being, a dimensional rift, thin and narrow, swirling with a volatile glow. It pulsed like a heartbeat, a passageway between two realities. The dimension crack is very narrow. It makes it hard for humans to pass through, and it would create resistance, Baru added. Images of rifts flickered in Suho's mind, one wide enough for a being of immense power, one that sealed itself with tenacity. Even if one tries to forcibly expand the outer walls, it restores itself quickly, Baru went on. So it takes more time and energy for someone to perform a dimensional transfer, depending on how much mana they have. From high above the earth, the faintest silhouette of interdimensional movements became clear. Soldiers of the monarch waged war elsewhere, somewhere beyond the stars. That's why the army of Iterum fights in the other universe. And the Shadow Monarch can't come to this universe easily. The gravity of it hit Suho like a weight. The apostle was already here because he was weak enough. To sum things up, he murmured to himself, the apostle is weak enough to undergo dimensional transfer quickly. His gaze dropped to the floor, thoughts racing. Seeing as how the apostle hasn't appeared and has only made use of Braki and the demons, that does make sense. But if the invasion was to continue, if that threat only grew from here, then this might be my only chance, Suho mumbled. The flicker of resolve stirred in his chest. Right now would be the best chance for me to get stronger. From the corner, Baru watched intently. Is this the time? The little general whispered, as if sensing Suho's conviction taking root. Far away, in the shadows of another realm, Baru received a solemn command. Baru, since we don't know the situation on Earth right now, I'll leave the required decisions and processes up to your discretion while you're there. A great figure handed down a small but powerful key, a shimmering artifact filled with sovereign power. If you need help, then take this and go to him. In that instant, Baru turned, recognizing the significance of the key passed to him. He will definitely be of great help to Suho in many ways, the voice declared. Back in the room, Suho stared down. The other reason that his father, the Shadow Monarch, had given him this key. I'll use it. And with that, the course of fate twisted again. Suho flinched at the sudden voice. The shadow's eerie glow closed in fast. Young monarch, startled, Suho stumbled back, wide-eyed. His heart pounded as the instinct to react surged through his body. A chill prickled his neck as he blinked at the small figure before him. Then, realization crashed in like a wave. Why didn't he think of this sooner? His hand dove into his pocket, fingers wrapping around something solid and familiar. His eyes lit up with urgency. There was a method, a way to enter a gate without officially joining a raid team, a way to get stronger, legally, and stay under the radar of the Hunter Association. It was always this close, right beside him all along. His gaze lifted toward a towering skyscraper now bathed in morning light. The path forward was finally clear. Inside the polished interior, Suho sat on a couch across from a familiar figure. Clean-cut, confidently composed, a sharp presence across from him. "Long time no see, Suho," the man said, breaking the silence. This was their first meeting since Suho's reawakening. Then, Suho with a glint in his eye. "I've brought a proposal for you where you can't lose." "I was wondering why you wanted to meet with me," the man continued. "I didn't expect you to bring a business proposal." He leaned back with a smile. "You've grown up so much." Baru observed quietly from Suho's shadow, proud and sharp-eyed, as expected of the young monarch. To think he would find him first, Baru mused, recalling his lord's words. "The one my liege had mentioned." The man across from Suho tapped his tablet thoughtfully, gears already turning. "So, you're saying you want me," he said, trailing off slightly with a smirk. "To assist you in entering a gate, right?" He leaned forward, sunlight streaking across his confident smile. Eugene Ho, CEO of Ajin Soft. A radiant explosion of light erupts in the virtual sky, gilded armor gleaming, weapons ablaze with mystic energy, and avatars posed like gods in the digital heavens. The screen reads, 12,417,718 concurrent users. In this virtual dominion, a game reigns supreme, Beautiful World. A revolutionary virtual reality title that stormed the industry, capturing hearts and screens across the globe since its release 4 years ago. The title flares across the scene like a blazing banner of victory. And yet, behind this unprecedented global phenomenon was someone no one expected. The camera pans down from the virtual epic to the real world, a shining tower of glass and steel, piercing the sky like the seat of a modern empire. A monolith of innovation and wealth. No one would have guessed that the genius behind the most beloved game in the world was none other than the youngest, most underestimated son of a powerful conglomerate family. The name of the company responsible, Ajin Soft. Inside, amid the sleek elegance of a futuristic lobby, Suho steps forward calmly. He is greeted by a suited staffer who bows politely. "Are you Mr. Sung Suho?" the man asks. "Yes," Suho replies evenly. "I've been waiting for you." Our CEO said, "A very important guest will arrive today." With a professional smile, the man gestures ahead. "This way, please." As Suho follows, his eyes shift, thoughtful. "It's my first time visiting my uncle's company." But something unexpected begins to tug at his senses. Why are there so many awakened individuals working here? The camera follows his gaze, revealing employees in casual conversation, tapping at tablets or sipping coffee, yet emanating mana, strength, readiness. These were not ordinary staff. The escort, noticing Suho's subtle confusion, offers a knowing smile. "You must be wondering why we have so many awakened as employees. Not everyone who awakens wants to risk their lives in dungeons." The hallway stretches onward, quiet footsteps echoing between the polished walls. With the right pay, some are happy to work as guards or take on missions. Suho's brow furrows, the question unspoken but sensed. "Missions? At a game company?" "There's a project our company is working on," the man says, his tone careful. "Unfortunately, I can't tell you the details." Suho's thoughts sharpen. A game connected to hunters? The elevator doors slide open with a soft chime. What lies beyond them is the true reason he was invited. A warm voice echoed across the office. "Wow, who do we have here?" Eugene Ho stepped forward with a beaming grin, one arm already reaching out, his energy as exuberant as ever. He pulled Suho in for a casual hug, slapping him lightly on the back with brotherly affection. "Long time no see, Suho. How long has it been?" he asked, eyes shining with genuine joy. They walked together into the office, their footsteps light despite the years that had passed. Jinho glanced back with a chuckle. "The last time I heard from you was at your awakening ceremony at Korean Arts University," he said, his voice lowering slightly. Do you know how much your aunt worries for you? Suho smiled faintly, brushing his fingers along the edge of his jacket. I've been pretty busy recently, so I couldn't contact you guys more often. I'm sorry. Jinho let out a small sigh, placing a hand on his hip. Even so, his eyes softened as he looked over his nephew. You seem to have grown up more since we last met, he remarked, a trace of awe in his tone. Suho chuckled and scratched the back of his head. I guess I'm in a growth spurt. But there was no time to dwell on nostalgia. Suho turned to face him directly and pulled a device from his pocket. Uncle, can you take a look at this? Jinho raised a brow, surprised. It's been so long since we've talked, yet you're already talking business? He accepted the device anyway, the holographic screen illuminating his face. A business proposal? He mused, still with quiet confidence. Jinho explained, I was wondering why you suddenly wanted to meet with me. I didn't expect you to bring me a business proposal. Jinho chuckled, easing back into the couch. You've grown up so much. So, you're saying that you want me? Jinho trailed off, smiling knowingly. To assist you in entering a gate, right? Suho nodded. Yes, if you help me with purchasing the gates and recruit the strike team members required to enter the gate, he said, lifting his hand. A glow shimmered in his palm, revealing a radiant collection of magic essence crystals. I'll give all the magic essence crystals that drop in the gate to Ajin Soft. His eyes narrowed with focused intent. I can clear a D to C-rank dungeon easily. A sharp glint flickers in the Jinho's eyes as he leans back slightly, trying to process what Suho just said. An E-rank hunter, claiming he can clear C-rank dungeons alone. You can do that despite being an E-rank hunter? Suho doesn't flinch. He answers with quiet confidence. I have my own way of clearing dungeons. The tone, the calm certainty in his voice, it makes his uncle pause. Something has changed. This wasn't the same boy from just months ago. His uncle steadies himself and shifts the conversation, perhaps to reassert perspective. Suho, you do know that I'm an awakened too, right? He chuckles softly, almost self-deprecating. I'm a D rank, technically higher than you, but I'm not strong enough to hunt inside a gate. That's the reality. But the air shifts. Suho's silence deepens. A storm is gathering behind those eyes. His uncle leans in slightly, voice hushed. Could the reason you're so desperate to enter dungeons be because you think your parents got caught in one? During the Great Cataclysm. The words hit hard. That long shadow of loss, of unanswered questions, hangs in the room like thick fog. If that's the case, know that I'm still hiring hunters to look into it. So please, just wait a little longer. But Suho had expected this, and that answer, compassionate as it may be, was no longer enough. Inside his mind, the soft glow of Baru's voice pulses again. Young monarch, do you intend to tell him the truth? Suho answers with conviction. Yes, he's the one person I trust the most, after all. He turns to his uncle. Uncle. The older man glances up from his tablet. Suho sits up straighter, shadows flickering behind his eyes. I'm actually an awakened who can level up. The words are otherworldly, impossible to most, but delivered with such gravity that they leave no room for doubt. His uncle stares, blinking. What? Level up? Suho's gaze sharpens. There are invaders from the outer universe, hiding on Earth. The office's modern stillness seems to tremble as Suho's voice grows firm. In order to stop them, I have to kill monsters. And level up. It's no longer about just growing stronger. It's about preparing for war. A war no one else even realizes has already begun. Darkness swirls faintly around Suho as he reveals the greater truth, one no one else has dared to say aloud. In order to stop the invasion of the outer universe, I must enter dungeons and become stronger. His uncle recoils slightly, overwhelmed. What are you talking about? Suho lets the silence stretch. And then, Suho, have you heard about the solo leveling project? The air stills. Suho's eyes widen. In this moment, the words strike like a thunderclap. The truth he thought he bore alone may not be his alone after all. Suho's words hung in the air, solo leveling. And for a moment, the room paused in silence. His uncle blinked, puzzled, then chuckled with disbelief, brushing his hand across his face as if clearing away the absurdity. Ah, I get it now, he said, laughing nervously. This must be some kind of prank. A secret camera thing where you make a ridiculous request just to fluster your uncle. But his voice faltered when he looked into Suho's eyes. There was no trace of mischief there. Only clarity. Purpose. Still, he tried to dismiss it. What you just said, it's the story of a single-player game that my company is working on right now. He pulled up promotional visuals, digital images displayed across the glass of his tablet. The tale was eerily familiar. There's an awakened who can level up alone, he explained. He starts at the bottom, an E rank. But he grows, surpasses S ranks, and becomes the strongest, saving the world. Suho stared at the imagery, heart pounding. The parallels were undeniable. What was the point in hiding it now? If someone in this world had already conceived the same story, perhaps they were remembering it, too. His gaze dropped as the thought struck him. That story, could it be father's? But the uncle wasn't convinced. If you're trying to pull one over on me with my employees, then you've failed, he scoffed. You're way too green to trick me. Then, a voice rose from behind Suho. Faint, ethereal. Failed. Not a chance. Baru hovered calmly behind him, his glowing eyes fixed on the man. You must have vague memories of sorts from the previous world. The uncle flinched as the ant-like being floated into view, startled out of his bravado. Suho, what's this ant-face thingy? Baru turned to his young master. Young monarch, may I help? Suho gave a single nod. Baru, since when? Baru turned to the stunned man, his tone reverent and deep. In the forgotten time, you were a minion who followed behind my king. Memories stirred within the man's eyes. Flashes, fragments he didn't know he carried. Among all the humans, you've also seen most of the battles that my liege has fought. Those powerful and stirring moments must be engraved in your soul. The uncle staggered back, uncertain. What? Baru's claws lit with shadowy light as he lifted a strange, glowing key toward him. It's faster to do this than to waste time explaining with words. He extended the artifact forward. This is a gift from the Shadow Monarch. A surge of power pulsed from the object, radiating into the man's chest as it made contact, light bursting into every fiber of his being. His eyes widened in shock as a glow surrounded him. What are? The color drained from the man's face, his eyes wide with disbelief as the blinding flash of light faded. For a moment, the world around him fell utterly silent. His breath stalled, and his heartbeat echoed louder than any sound. He found himself standing alone in an endless white void, unfamiliar yet eerily still. Huh? His voice echoed into the emptiness, a quiet ripple in a sea of silence. Confusion turned to alarm as distant footsteps resonated, deliberate and growing closer. A towering figure approached through the haze, casting a long, chilling shadow over the floor. The stranger's boots were dark, adorned in gold-trimmed armor, stepping with purpose and weight as if forged from an ancient memory. The man instinctively stepped back, his mouth parting as his eyes met the imposing figures. The silhouette emerged fully into view, massive, regal, and cloaked in radiant armor. The light streamed behind him like the aura of a god. Me? The words came from his own lips before he could stop them. A flicker of disbelief lit his gaze, but then, like a floodgate opened, fragments of the past surged forward, crashing into him all at once. Faces, voices, battles, the cries of monsters, the clash of steel. He saw himself standing beside a timid young hunter named Jin Wu, who had once claimed to be an E rank. He remembered offering to protect him, thought it would be a simple task. But things changed. Memories unraveled, the teasing words from other hunters, his joking tone barely masking worry. Moments in dungeons, the silence in those tense walks. Then the shock, the sheer power Jin Wu suddenly wielded. Watching him cut through enemies like shadows. The betrayal, the pleading, the pain of being spared, and the guilt that followed. And then redemption. He saw them raiding together, over and over, bonding through danger, relying on each other, defying death side by side. From panic to trust, from strangers to brothers. He recalled sitting across the table, nursing bruises and drinks, looking at Jin Wu and realizing something unspoken. Not only did you save my life, you've helped me with the raids. His voice had cracked back then, quieter than usual, heart laid bare without jokes or bravado. You're more like my brother than my actual brother. That feeling, that truth, It was more real than anything else he had ever known. And now, standing in this strange place, before this figure who bore both his image and something greater, he began to understand. This wasn't just a memory. It was a calling. The quiet clink of a glass against the table echoed softly between them. "If you think of me as your brother," he paused, lifting his drink with quiet determination, "I'll also think of you as mine." That simple declaration hit harder than anything else. It tore through time, through fractured memories, through the walls built by loss. Tears welled up uncontrollably in his eyes. His breath caught in his throat as emotion flooded in without warning. The past rushed in, not as memories of facts, but memories of feeling, of shared pain, of loyalty, of the bond that had formed in another world. "Huh," he whispered again, choked with realization. In that case, in this world, to meet with Jinwoo again. Suho looked to Baru, his voice lower but concerned. "Baru, what did you do to him?" Baru hovered beside him, his tone calm and resolute. "There's no need for concern. He simply recovered his memories of the previous world." As the man gripped his face, trembling, Suho quietly digested the truth. A mug of coffee steamed nearby, an unassuming comfort in the face of world-shifting revelations. "I see, the strength that Jinwoo had, which has no limits," the man muttered. "You, his son, also have it, right?" Suho answered with a humble nod. "Yes. It's a little different, though." The man stared, his mind sharpening like steel. The wrinkled tissues on the table, the steaming coffee, all blurred under the dawning realization. The god of the outer universe. To think he's protecting this world from those guys known as Iterum, his fists clenched. He's truly of a completely different dimension. A new resolve dawned in his voice. In order to stop the invasion of Iterum that's about to happen on Earth, I need to get stronger as fast as possible. Then came the laughter, light, familiar. "Seriously though, the situation's already this urgent, yet you still brought me a business proposal? You're such a stickler for rules, just like your father." Suho chuckled along, leaning back in his chair. The man exhaled slowly, the weight of responsibility lifting as clarity took its place. "Now that I understand the situation, I shouldn't treat you like a kid and try to protect you anymore." He stood and looked Suho squarely in the eyes. "I accept your whole proposal." "Awesome." Suho grinned, fists clenched in triumph. But the man turned slightly away, eyes distant. Jinwoo is enduring this tough trial alone again this time. Golden light bled through the window. His voice became softer. "But the reason he allowed me to recover my memories is because he's giving me a chance to help, right?" The light bathed his face as he stood with solemn pride. "You can count on me for this. I'll do my best to help Suho." Later, outside beneath a pale sky, Suho stood in front of a portal, the sharp bite of mist brushing against his mask. His hood concealed his face, but his golden eyes gleamed with purpose. The strike team was assembled, a mismatched group gathered by Uncle, waiting in various states of nervous anticipation. "These are the strike team members that Uncle hired," Suho noted inwardly. "He's done a great job of hiring people just to fill up the required numbers." A man seated nearby asked, hesitant but intrigued, "Will you really give me 4 million just to be in this strike team, but not enter the gate?" "Yes, that's right." "Are you really going in alone, though?" Suho stood tall, silent beneath the hood, as the gate pulsed with light behind him, the weight of 2 worlds resting on his shoulders. The air grew cold as Suho stepped toward the gate, the swirling vortex illuminating his figure like a hero walking into legend. A man crouched nearby, watching him closely, concern shadowing his gaze. "I don't know how confident you are in your skills." His voice was steady, but his brows were drawn tight. "But you're being reckless by underestimating the gates." A warning laced with experience. His expression softened slightly. "Well, if you feel like you can't do it, feel free to tell us anytime." But Suho didn't falter. Turning his back to the man and the rest of the team, he faced the gate, the unknown, with a calm yet unshakable will. "Even though my body's in this state, I might still be able to provide a little help." He paused for a breath, then added in a low voice, "Thank you." A flicker of a smile touched his lips beneath the dark mask. And with that, he stepped into the light. "If I need your help, I'll let you know." Footsteps echoed into the void. Father took on numerous things on his own. Suho's steps quickened, and is still living that life right now. The wind howled. From the shadows, a dark form emerged, violet hair flowing, sickle in hand. Essel. And then another, quiet and still as death, cloaked in shifting darkness. Gray. Suho's voice was filled with conviction, which is why in this team system that I've received, metal slammed down. I can feel his warmth through his hidden intentions, but his voice turned firm. But a swarm of monstrous enemies stood in formation, red outlines glowing, their breath fogging the icy air. I don't want to let him take on everything by himself. Suho's fist clenched, veins of light surging through it. With a defiant smile burning behind the mask, let's start leveling up. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.